episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
I'm Dan.
Kaila.
And I'm Josh. Laney, I've been doing this show we've been doing this for 5 seasons. I have to ask, what does it feel like to be the moderator?
It's all right. Ain't nothing too fancy, you know.
Okay.
How you feeling about maybe being the moderator? You want to try it out?
Possibly. What is it we're going over today?
We're going over V for Vendetta.
Yeah. You're interested in V for Vendetta?
Yes, a little bit.
A little bit, or?
Yeah, I mean, I like to be underwhelming, you know, not to disappoint the fans. Yeah, so that's something to look forward to.
Would it be something you'd want to discuss?
Sure thing.
Alrighty.
Okay.
You want to switch?
Sure.
Alrighty. We'll be doing that. Okay.
Oh, he needs the questions.
Oh yeah, you do
Can't
need the
moderate.
questions. Here you go.
Okay, that helps.
One time letting go.
Can't be the moderator without the questions.
Alrighty.
Improvise.
So, in Laney fashion, today we're going over V for Vendetta by Alan Moore. Alrighty. And the first question is, do you think V's message of obliteration leads to liberation is a logical one?
I would say, in a way, yeah. Kind of like how you can obtain peace through chaos, kind of way. The thing is, he believes that these establishments and the things that they've created are oppressing the people of the world that they live in, and he basically wants to destroy their power establishments, destroy them, and basically after that, the thing is, you can rebuild the government anew in a way that's probably better for everyone. I mean, that was kind of like the whole message I got.
I think in general it's a pretty bad theory, but when you're talking about a government and changing the way the system is, it's the only way that can work, because in order to put up a new system and create a new government, you need to entirely destroy the other one, because people are still going to be thinking, well, that's not the way the old government would have done it. So I think when you're talking about government takedowns, obliteration leads to liberation is the only way.
I agree. It has to be some sort of revolution.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we created America. You know, we fought against the British establishment. So in a way,
Founded capitalism.
Thank God.
Definitely sounds much more appealing the way that you put it.
Yeah.
That's where that mask comes into play. But, ready for the next question?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Already, next question is, do you think it's significant that our main character, Evie, is a female? How are females treated in this world, and does that make Evie's prominence in the story more telling or interesting?
I don't really know how the females are treated in that world, but the thing is, Evie's basically a character who gets drawn into the world and becomes somewhat of a revolutionist herself by meeting V.
I don't think they're treated any differently than a lot of people would be now. I mean, there's a general sense of oppression for everyone that is living in the UK at this point, and she unfortunately ended up in a group of people that were desperate to get out of her situation, and she was willing to do what was ever necessary. So in that way, it's kind of like a woman in trouble, gets rescued, kind of typical thing. But she ends up being pretty strong.
When we first married, she was kind of down on money or something like that. She almost turned to prostitution in a way.
Oh yeah, she did.
Well, I think that's really telling, though, is that people
well,
have to
everyone
do
in
that
that story is on hard times.
Right, yeah, but I feel like a lot of the women especially are forced to turn to prostitution and selling their body, and I think that does make Evie more in need of this revolution. In a way, it makes her a little bit more, she's more desperate than some of the other people in the society, which is interesting.
I'm going to actually add a question as somebody looking into approaching the series or approaching the graphic novel with regard to, you had made mention to the society not being that civilized for women. Is this supposed to be a take on a previous period of time?
Kind of like fascism in
1980s to 1990s.
Yeah, kind of like that. But based in 1997, where I don't know if communism was really that big in 1997.
I mean, Not necessarily like any bigger or smaller than it was during the Communist
Yeah,
Revolution.
it's kind of like I would say it's like an alternate universe, like of 1997, where like communism has like spread to as far as the UK, which I don't think it really ever did in real life. So yeah, it kind of relates to like fascism and communism and all that stuff.
But you kind of have to take that from when it was written, because wasn't this written in like the late 80s when the red threat was a little bit more prominent than it is today? Like today we're not really worried about becoming
Yeah,
communist.
he wrote in
but,
1988.
Yeah, so back then it was a little bit more prominent.
Yeah, so like we didn't know what was going to happen in 1997.
Well, it's not necessarily even like communist in this book. Like he's pretty strongly fascist because it doesn't represent the like major good for anybody, but
True.
it represents Britain's fear, I think, of like outside intrusion and like their fear of like the chaos going on in the world around them. So they want to like close themselves off, which is pretty remarkably familiar to what they're doing currently. And I think Margaret Thatcher scared them a little bit too, like because Margaret Thatcher scared a lot of liberals, even though she's a very powerful lady. I don't necessarily agree with her views, but that's why I live here, I guess.
The next question would be, if anyone watches Mr. Robot, do you see any connection in the two worlds portrayed?
I never watched the show, so I can't really comment.
I had it recommended to me like last week, and then I heard about it on the radio again. I was like, I need to watch it.
It's so
And
good.
I've heard. I
It's
don't
so
know anything
good.
about it. I've heard great things.
So I
Isn't
guess
Jack.
Isn't like he's like a tech genius or something like?
yeah, it's like a hacktivist, which is basically
Like he wants to
the
take down
theory
evil
of V for
corporations. I
Vendetta.
guess I can kind of see how it's kind of like V for
Yeah,
Vendetta.
it's like they wear like masks in the show and release videos online. It's really similar to V for Vendetta. Like the show is basically, if you combined V for Vendetta with Fight Club, you would have Mr. Robot. So I just really I was hoping other people had watched it because the show's so good.
Okay, I've heard of it.
And watch it, it's great, and it's really comparable to V for Vendetta.
If I may, I have a question I'd like to propose.
Oh, absolutely.
The character V, do you see him as a good guy or a bad guy?
I think he's kind of an anti-hero. He does bad things to get to a good means.
I mean, it's so hard to say. I think he isn't really either. He's supposed, like the whole entire point of the mask is that he's just like one of many. Like he's not like he's like the voice. He's not anything more than a voice, and that's why he wears the mask a lot of times. Because in the end, he's not like super important except for the message he's trying to send. But he has that like human element of like vengeance against all the people he went around killing. So
I have a belief that he's, in a way, a good guy, kind of an anti-hero. I believe he's more of an anarchist. An anarchist doesn't necessarily mean that you're a bad person, to tell you the truth. But he was obsessed. He hated the way the government was running things, and he felt like, stuff that people like. He felt like the culture and everything, the world has changed, and the things he wanted to destroy those establishments that what they considered justice wasn't justice. I think like in one part of the book they mentioned like how people were being like the people who were homosexual, black, or basically different than being a white person. The thing was taken and thrown into like concentration camps in a way, or were never heard from again. I think it's actually mentioned somewhere in the book. So he felt like, the way how things are being run has to end. And the thing is, words aren't going to cut it. So you need action. So I kind of feel like he's somewhat of a revolutionist hero, so in a way. He was the hero they needed.
So, final thoughts on V for Vendetta?
Definitely good. It's definitely one of Alan Moore's best work. I mean, it's probably my second favorite. My first favorite is Watchmen, but this is definitely a good read.
I agree. It's good for any fans of dystopic fiction, really, which I know we're going over later, but it's also good for anybody who wants to see a change in the world.
I agree. I also like Finch. I think he's a lot more of a prominent character in the comic book than he is in the movie. Even though I love the movie, they got a lot of things right. Yeah, he was the detective, the one that kind of like helped show the light from the inside. He represented that because that is necessary to change things. Like
he's
it's
kind of
not
like a
just
neutral viewpoint. I feel like he was kind of like.
Well, he like struggled. Like he was the human. He was like the humanity. It's like Evie is hard to relate to unless you're there. I mean, you can relate to victimization and like desperation, but
like
it's
she
hard
was
to
like one
relate
that
to
was
like
change over the course of the book.
Yeah, she represents like change, but he represents like realization and so I like that guy a lot. So look out for Finch. Bring some attention.
That does it for Literary Gladiators. Until then, keep reading.